Jerry Jones just pulled a move that nobody saw coming, and now Cowboys Nation needs to understand what happens next. Because everything we thought we knew about this roster is getting flipped upside down, and before I get into all of it real quick, if you bleed blue and silver, like I do, smash that subscribe button right now, because we are the fastest Cowboys news channel, dropping updates the second they happen, and I see way too many of you watching without being subscribed, so join the family. It takes 1 second, and you will never miss a major Cowboys move again. Now let me tell you what is really going on. Because the Cowboys just shipped Osa Odigizua to San Francisco for a third-round pick. And I know some of you are sitting there thinking, wait, what are we doing? But here is the part that changes everything. That third-round pick is not just sitting in a drawer somewhere. Jerry has plans for it, and multiple reports are now suggesting the Cowboys are actively pursuing another trade. And the crazy part is, we might already know who the target is, because the Minnesota Vikings have officially made Jonathan Greenard available, and league insiders are confirming that Dallas is one of the teams making calls. So let me break down exactly what this means, why it matters, and whether this is the move that finally fixes this defense, or just another Jerry Jones gamble that leaves us scratching our heads. Because honestly, Cowboys fans, we are at a crossroads right now, and the decisions made in the next few days could define this entire season before it even starts. Now, first, let me give you some context because you need to understand how we got here. The Cowboys' defense was a problem last year. We all watched it, we all yelled at our televisions, and the front office knew something had to change. So they let some guys walk, they made a few signings, but the real fireworks happened when they traded Osa away. And at first I was confused because Osa was a productive player. He brought energy to that defensive line. But then I started digging into the numbers and the cap situation, and suddenly it made more sense than I wanted to admit because Jerry needed flexibility, and that trade gave him exactly that, a day 2 pick that can now be weaponized in the trade market. And that brings us right back to Jonathan Greenard, who has been one of the more underrated pass rushers in this league over the past few years. Now, some of you might be wondering, why would Minnesota trade him? And that is a fair question because when you look at his numbers in Houston, he was absolutely dominant. We are talking double-digit sacks back-to-back seasons. The guy was collapsing pockets and terrorizing quarterbacks on a weekly basis. But then he went to Minnesota, and things got weird. The scheme changed, his role shifted, and last season, his production dipped pretty significantly, with only 3 sacks in 12 games. And I know what you are thinking. Wait, only 3 sacks? Why would we want him? And that is where you have to dig deeper than the box score, because his pressure rate was still solid. His PFF grade was top 30 among edge rushers. And the real issue was not his talent. It was the fit in that Viking system. He went from being a pure edge rusher to playing more of an outside linebacker role, and that transition was rocky. But here is where it gets interesting for Dallas because Christian Parker is building something different with this defense, and the question becomes, can Greenard thrive in what the Cowboys are asking their outside linebackers to do? And honestly, I think there is real potential here, especially when you consider that the Cowboys just signed Rashawn Gary, who I believe can play a hybrid role sliding inside when needed, which would free up Greenard to do what he does best. And that is attack the quarterback with violent intentions. So the fit might actually be better than people realize. But let us talk about price because that matters a lot when you are working with limited draft capital. One report suggested Minnesota would want the equivalent of a second-round pick. But if they get desperate, that number could drop to a third. And guess what? Dallas just got a third-round pick sitting right there, ready to be used. And I do not think that is a coincidence, because Jerry Jones does not make moves without a plan, even when we do not understand it. At first, he is always thinking 2 steps ahead. And I believe this trade for Osa was about more than just clearing cap space. It was about loading the ammunition for a bigger move, and Greenard could absolutely be that move. Now, would I pull the trigger on this if I am the Cowboys? Honestly, I am torn, because on one hand, You are getting a proven pass rusher with elite upside who might just need the right scheme to unlock his potential again. And on the other hand, you are giving up a pick that could be used to address other holes on this roster. And that is where I have to be real with you. Because the outside linebacker position is not the only problem on this defense. In fact, I would argue it is not even the biggest problem right now. Because when you look at the inside linebacker room, it is genuinely scary, and not in a good way. DeMarvion Overshawn is a beast. Do not get me wrong, I love that kid. He plays with his hair on fire every single snap. But after him, who do we have? Because Kenneth Murray is gone and the depth chart gets real thin, real fast. You have got guys who are transitioning positions. You have got undrafted free agents trying to prove themselves. And you have got a massive hole in the middle of this defense that opponents are going to exploit every single week if it does not get addressed. And that leads me to the other trade rumor that is floating around right now, because apparently the San Francisco 49ers are listening to offers for Fred Warner. And if you just felt your heart skip a beat, I understand, because Fred Warner would be an absolute game changer. For this Cowboys defense, we are talking about one of the best inside linebackers in the entire league, a guy who has started over 120 games, who brings leadership intelligence and playmaking ability to the middle of the field. And yes, he was injured last year, only playing in 6 games, but before that he was one of the most durable, consistent players at his position in the NFL. And here is the thing, the Cowboys already have a relationship with San Francisco after the Osa trade. So maybe you go back to that well and see if you can work something out. Now, the price for Warner is going to be steep. We are probably talking about a second-round pick, maybe even more. But if you are serious about competing this year, and not just talking about it but actually doing it, then this is the kind of move you have to consider. Because the free agent market for linebackers is not exactly loaded right now. You have got some veterans available, but most of them come with age concerns or injury histories, and the idea of just hoping you can find a solution in the draft is risky. Because what if you do not land one of the top guys? What if Ashlyn Williams and the other defensive studs are off the board before you pick? Then you are stuck trying to patch together a position group that needs a true difference maker, and Fred Warner is exactly that. So if I am being completely honest with you, and this is just my opinion, I would rather see the Cowboys use that capital to go after Warner than Greenard, because inside linebacker is the bigger need, and Warner is the better player. But I understand if you disagree, and I want to know what you think. Would you rather have Greenard or Warner? Drop it in the comments, because I am genuinely curious where Cowboys Nation stands on this. And while we are talking about the comments, let me address the elephant in the room, because Jerry Jones told us he was going to bust the budget. Remember that he stood there and said the Cowboys were going to be aggressive, they were going to make moves, they were going to spend money, and here we are watching trades happen and small signings get made, and I keep asking myself, is this what busting the budget looks like? Because the biggest move so far has been Jalen Thompson, and do not get me wrong, I love that signing. He is going to be a difference maker in the secondary. But when Jerry said, bust the budget, I think most of us were expecting fireworks. And right now, it feels more like sparklers, and I am not trying to be negative here. I am just being real because Cowboys fans have heard these promises before, and we have been let down more times than I want to count. So until I see that splash move, until I see Jerry actually go out there and pay top dollar for a game-changing player, I am going to remain cautiously optimistic, but not fully convinced, and maybe that trade is coming. Maybe Greenard or Warner or someone we have not even talked about yet is about to put on the star and change everything. But until it happens, I am keeping my expectations in check because this franchise has taught me to do that the hard way. Now let me also mention something that has been bothering me, because when I look at this roster and I look at the moves that have been made, I see a team that is in transition, and that is not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, but it does mean that this season is going to require patience. And I know patience is not exactly something Cowboys fans are known for, because we have been waiting for a Super Bowl since the 90s, and every year we convince ourselves that this is the year only to watch it fall apart in January. But here is what I will say about this current situation. The Cowboys are clearly building something. They are not just throwing money at problems and hoping they go away. They are being strategic about their moves. They are acquiring draft capital. They are adding young, talented players, and they are positioning themselves to make bigger moves when the time is right. And yeah, it is frustrating to watch other teams make splashy signings while we sit here waiting, but I would rather have a front office with a plan than one that panics and overpays for players who do not fit the system. So I am going to trust the process, at least for now, and see how this all plays out over the next few weeks, because free agency is not over. The draft is still coming, and there are going to be more moves made between now and training camp. So stay locked in with me, because this is going to be a wild ride, and I do not want you to miss any of it. Now, let me bring this all together and give you my final thoughts, because we have covered a lot today, and I want to make sure you understand the big picture. The Cowboys are in a transitional period. They have made some smart trades, they have added some solid pieces, and they are clearly targeting certain positions to address. In the coming days, the Greenard rumors are real, and I think there is a legitimate chance that trade happens. But I also think the inside linebacker position is the bigger priority, and if they can find a way to land Fred Warner or someone of that caliber, it would completely change the outlook for this defense. The budget busting that Jerry promised has not fully materialized yet, but we are only a few days into free agency, and there is still time for that splash move to happen. So I am remaining hopeful while also staying realistic, because that is the only way to survive as a Cowboys fan in this era. And one more time, if you made it this far in the video and you are not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that button. Join the Blue and Silver Nation family, because we are going to be covering every single move, every single rumor, every single update from now until the Super Bowl. And I want you here for all of it. Drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on Greenard, on Warner, on Jerry, and the budget, on everything we talked about today, because I read every single comment, and I want to hear from you. This is Blue and Silver Nation, and I will see you in the next one.